If you want a large luxury 7-seater SUV, which you did choose between the new Mercedes GLS, the BMW X7, or maybe you ditch the Germans and their fossil fuels and go for something electric from America. Yeah! To say the day, yeah! Sorry about that. In this video, I'm going to tell you which of these three cars is best. It's sort of like the Battle of the Bulge, quite literally. They're huge. Let's start off this group test by talking about the engines you can get these cars with, starting with the GLS. So you can get it with a 3-litre straight 6 petrol, 2 3-litre straight 6 diesels, or 3 4-litre twin turbo V8s. Now, I've just noticed something really weird. For some reason, there's this fake carbon fibre effect plastic in the engine bay. Why have they done that? The Model X doesn't have an engine bay, so I'm showing you the badge which says dual motors because it has 2 of them. Now you can have it in 2 flavours, either a long range version or the performance model. Finally then we come to the BMW, and it's available with 3 engines. There's 2 3-litre straight 6 diesels or a 4.4-litre twin turbo V8. I know which one I'd rather have. And it's the one in this car, the M50i. So it's 4.4-litre twin turbo V8, puts out 530 horsepower. The GLS is actually the 400D, so it's 3-litre straight 6 turbo diesel, puts out 330 horsepower. That Tesla Model X is the long range version, and it produces 470 horsepower from its dual electric motors. Now they all weigh about the same, 2.5 tons, there or thereabouts. They all have all-wheel drive, but this BMW has launch control. The other 2 don't. But let's have a drag race. May seem odd because they're a bit mismatched, but I just want to see what happens when you race a diesel SUV against an electric SUV and against a petrol SUV. So let's do it. And of course, I love a good drag race, don't I? 3, 2, 1, go. All got off pretty much the same. Ah, BMW power. There we go. Tutty bye. They smashed them. Good old-fashioned V8. Let's see what happens in a rolling race then. Let's have the cars in comfort mode and in automatic for the gearbox. Obviously, doesn't matter with the Tesla, it's always automatic. Let's get up to 50 miles an hour and then I'll call it in. 3, 2, 1, go! Oh my God. Look at that Tesla go, it just took off. Can the BMW catch it up before I run out of road? Can it? Can it? Can it? No, I'm having to brake hard. Yeah, bloody hell. That was close. I almost smashed into the barrier. If that was on the road and I needed to get past the Tesla, I just wouldn't. Not at legal speeds. Oh, what happened that time then, Tesla?
No gearbox to trouble me. Just went.
How about you, Mercedes?
I'm just slower.
He is down on horsepower, to be fair. But diesel, like for like, is not going to beat a petrol. Petrol's just rev higher, and neither are going to beat an electric car like for like because they just have that instant response. Okay, let's talk about prices. So the BMW X7 starts from just over £70,000. Meanwhile, the Tesla Model X costs from £86,000. And finally, the Mercedes GLS starts from £75,000. Now, if you want to see how much money you can save on a new car, click on the pop-out banner up there to download the new CarWow app. It's completely free, and you can do things like compare offers from dealers, but also read our reviews, watch our videos, and it also includes a special car valuation tool which you can use your phone's camera to read a car's number plate, and it'll tell you exactly how much it's worth. Now I'm going to compare these cars' design. I'm going to come right out and say it. I prefer the look of this Mercedes GLS. For starters, it is the biggest. It just stands out so much more on the road than the other 2. I also like the roof rails, the chrome trim, the running boards, alloy wheels up to 23 inches in size. They are huge. And of course, you've got the big Mercedes badge on the grille. But there is one thing I don't like about it. Fake exhausts. Look. What the heck is the point? Why do that, Mercedes? Why? You don't need to. It's enough. Just stop it. I think the next best looking is the BMW, despite its controversial grille. I've actually spoken to quite a few people within BMW and they don't like this, but I don't mind it at all. I think it gives the car plenty of attitude, but if you stare at it too long, it does sort of look a little bit like Bugs Bunny from the front. It's like, yeah, what's up, Doc? Finally, we come to the Tesla, and its design has basically been wholly influenced by the wind tunnel because it's been made to be as aerodynamic as possible to maximise the range. The downside is, it means it looks like a blob. Not an SUV, not that keen. I'm also not keen on some of the panel gaps. The top of the door doesn't line up, this doesn't line up, there's huge gaps here. There's absolutely no way any of that would pass quality control at Mercedes or BMW. And if it did get through, whoever allowed it to would immediately be sacked. However, this Model X has a feature the other two can't match. It's Falcon rear doors. Look at that. Look at that. Awesome. Here on the inside, the Tesla continues its high-tech theme, mainly by the fact you've got a huge tablet for your infotainment screen. And then there's this massive windscreen. It's lovely at times. The problem is, if the sun's in a high position, some blinds don't really do much. Now, you do have leather pretty much everywhere, which is nice. Not so convinced by this brown wood trim on this particular car, but in places, it doesn't feel quite as well put together as the two Germans. This bit doesn't even fit properly. Same story as the outside then, really. Here inside the Mercedes, I do find the interior design just a little bit more interesting. Once again, huge screen dominates the dash, but this time it's lengthways rather than vertical. And I have to say, Mercedes wood trim is better. And the whole car just feels a bit more solidly put together. The GLS's steering wheel is loads nicer than the Model X's as well. It's not all perfect though. I'm not a fan of these sharp edges around the wood trim here. Also, why the heck have we got scratchy plastics down here on a supposedly premium car? And then there's the leather. Now, I like the leatherette you get on the dash and here and on the door tops, but the actual leather you got on the seats as standard has a weird texture to it. It's like they've skinned a wrinkly old man who's been out in the sun too long. What's that all about? When you first climb inside the X7, it doesn't have the initial wow factor of the other two cars, mainly because it has a more traditional two-screen layout for its dials and its infotainment system. But then, when you spend a bit more time in it, you realise this is actually the best interior, especially in terms of the build quality. Everything just feels a little bit more solid and better put together than in the other two. And the materials, there's nothing cheap anywhere in this car, anywhere. It's all gorgeous, all luxury. Now, I should point out that this car does have the upgraded individual leather seats, but even the standard ones are really nice and the leather is good quality. And then there's other things you can add to the car, such as the crystal gear lever, the crystal starter button, iDrive controller, and the little crystal there on the volume control. Plus the Sky Lounge panoramic glass roof, which has these little elements in them that when you put the ambient lighting on, they light up as well. And at night that looks really, really cool. I like this interior. Now let's talk about the infotainment systems, and BMW's iDrive is very good. It's quite easy to flip between different menus and stuff, and you can operate it as a touchscreen using the swivel wheel, gesture controls, or voice commands. Now let's just check out how good the voice commands are. Hey BMW.
Hello, what can I help you with?
Take me to Burger King.
Which one of the destinations shall I select?
Cancel. I'm on a diet.
All right.
Generally, the system is pretty good. Sometimes it doesn't understand you, but you can use it quite handily when you're just driving along. One thing that I'm not so keen on though is the digital driver's display. It's just a bit dark and dingy, and it doesn't show all that much information. I don't like the way the rev counter goes backwards either. It's a good system. It could be better by having Android Auto as standard. You can't get it with this car at the moment, but in future BMW will be adding it. Here in the Mercedes GLS, you do get Android Auto as well as Apple CarPlay. Yay! Also, overall, I think the infotainment system is slightly better than the BMW's. Part of the reason is the screen's just a bit shinier and clearer, especially the digital dials. They show more information and you can change the look of them as well, which I like. You also have similar input methods to the BMW, apart from gesture controls. It doesn't have that, but you can still control it by the touchpad. You can control it using the touchscreen. You can control it using the buttons on the wheel as well if you want to. And of course it has voice commands, so let's just see what they're like. Hey Mercedes.
How may I help you?
Take me to KFC.
Select an entry, please.
So yeah, that's fine. Cancel. The Tesla Model X also has voice commands, so you do have to press the button to activate them. Take me to a vegan restaurant. Let's come up with some there, though I'm not sure that Zizi's best known for being a vegan restaurant. It's more a pizzeria. You can access games on this car, so check this out. If you're just stood waiting for someone, you can do this, look. You can play different games, but the best thing is the whoopee cushion. You can actually have it so that when someone sits on one of the seats, it makes a farty sound, and you can actually change the noise of the farts for however you want them. That one was a bit tight. Oh. What it doesn't have though is Apple CarPlay nor Android Auto at all, but it doesn't matter so much because you've got this huge screen and it runs Google Maps, so you just use Google route guidance anyway. This screen itself is lovely and you can control all the car's functions through it. The only problem with it is that it is rather distracting, especially when you're having to look all the way down there to control certain things. That's why I actually prefer screens that are lengthways rather than vertical like this. But there you go. While the Tesla Model X may have good in-car technology, the off-road technology isn't quite so good. Sure, it does have four-wheel drive because there's one motor at the front and one at the back, and you have adjustable air suspension, which allows you to increase the ride height, but even then, the ground clearance is pretty limited. Plus, the car gets road tyres as standard, which aren't great for off-roading. I think if you went off the beaten track in this thing, it could get stuck. It's more for the school run, really. Just like the Tesla, many X7s will be used for the school run, but it's also more capable if you need to go off-road. It has better ground clearance than the Tesla. Like the Tesla, you can raise it up. In fact, you can raise it up by 40mm over the standard height. And it should be okay enough for most people's needs. If you need even more off-road capability, there is an off-road pack, and that gives you special off-road driving modes, a sump guard, and a lockable differential. If you want to go off-road, then the GLS is going to be the best bet. For instance, if you fit the optional off-road pack to this car, you not only get an inter-axle locking diff, you also get a low-range gearbox. That means it is better for going up steep inclines. Eventually though, you will run out of grip, depending on what tyres you've got on it. Oh no, 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 oh no. But if you need to get down safely, it also has hill descent control, and it works even in reverse. Look, oh, there we go. It'll just take me down smoothly. I'm not even doing the brake, it's doing it for me. And that's not all. You can actually get this car with a special suspension upgrade, which effectively moves the wheels up and down so it can walk over bumps and ruts. It's really cool. Plus, you can use that feature to make the car get jiggy with it. Oh, I almost forgot. With the off-road package, this GLS has by far and away the best ground clearance as well. The GLS isn't only the best off-road, it's also the best for towing. It can actually tow up to 3.5 tons, which is a lot of tons, believe me. Plus, you get one of these as standard. No, an electrically operated tow bar. Or is the car just pleased to see me? You can get an electrically operated tow bar with the BMW as well. Though it's not standard, it'll cost you just over £1,000. And even then, this car's towing capability still isn't as good as the Mercedes. It can only tow 2.7 tons. Still all right though. The Tesla has the least towing capacity at 2.2 tons, and also if you fit 22-inch alloy wheels, that figure drops to 1.5 tons. I don't know why. Also, it does come with a tow hitch, but not an electrical one. You have to fit it yourself. Oh, it's all rather heavy. Obviously, these cars are going to spend more time carrying people than they are towing stuff. So how they fare in terms of passenger space is really key. So let's start off with the Tesla, and as you can see, it's fairly roomy back here. I like the way that you've got glass in the roof, you've got huge rear windows, and you can recline the middle seats quite a lot. If you need to, you can, there we go, slide them forwards and backwards just as you like it. Trouble is, when you're trying to have 3 in the middle row at once, the body isn't the widest, so you can feel a little bit cramped. Also, the way the doors are mounted means this central section is quite low, so the person in the middle seat doesn't have much headroom. At least the completely flat floor means there's plenty of room for everyone's feet. Now here in the middle row of the X7, you probably noticed that I've got 2 individual chairs. That's an optional upgrade. Normally you would have a 3-seater bench. It's a bit like the Tesla, you can have the same layout in that as well if you pay extra for it. I do like it like this. It just seems more roomy, and you've got these individual proper chairs with armrests there, which I can't seem to operate. I can't operate it. There we go. Unlike the Tesla, as standard, you get electrically operated seats. There's loads of adjustment in them, and you sit a bit higher as well, so you feel more supported in your seat. I like the glass roof as well, lets in lots of light, and the rear windows are big. Yeah, it's comfy, it's big, it's very spacious. Nothing to complain about, really. Just like the other 2 cars, you can get the GLS as a 6-seater version with captain chairs in this middle row, but not in the UK, it's this 7-seater version only. I can't complain about the space though. This feels like the biggest car. There is just so much knee room and headroom. It's really, really spacious. One thing I'm not so keen on though is the fact that the chairs do feel a little bit firmer than in the super plush BMW. Also, I still can't get over this, look, especially the middle seat. It's just this big expanse of that weird textured leather. Why'd they do that? Better to have someone sat there. In fact, if someone sits there, they will be quite comfy actually, because it sits quite low, the central seat, and the car's wide enough that you don't feel too squished in. Yeah, it's really, really roomy. And of course, yeah, you can move the seats forwards and backwards and recline them by controlling them electrically. And I prefer the location of the electrical controls here on the door rather than having to reach down by the side of the seat. Here in the very back of the GLS, it feels quite roomy as 7-seaters go. And the seats are quite high, so you're at a natural position. I like it. In fact, even with people sat in each row, there's enough room, even for adults in the very back here. My only complaint is the fact that the glass roof doesn't extend all the way to the back. So it can feel a bit dark back here, but it's not too bad. It's a bit quicker getting into the back of the BMW because the backrest is operated manually and then the seat starts to move forward, and in the meantime you can be working your way in. Also with the Mercedes, you have to hold your finger on the button to bring the seat back into place. With the BMW, you just flop this back down and it will steadily work its way back into position. Now, it does feel a bit more luxurious back here than in the Mercedes, and the fact that you get a separate little sunroof here in the very rear does help. It doesn't feel quite as roomy though. Knee room's a touch tighter, so is headroom. The seats aren't quite so high off the floor, but it's not too bad, and I could go quite a fair distance in the very back of this car, even with people in the other two rows. It's nice. It's definitely easiest getting to the back of the Model X because the seat mechanism is just simply just press a button there, then you manually slide it forward, and these huge openings makes it super easy to climb in. Yeah, pull this back, come on, come on. Oh shoot, this is all gone awry. Right, that's not great, so I'm gonna have to, oh! I'll just hit my arse on that. How do I do this? Where is it? Oh. Sorry about all that. Now, here in the very back of the Tesla, it feels the most cramped. It's livable even with someone sat in each row. Knee room is okay, the biggest problem is headroom. So you can't sit forward because then you bang your head on this part. If you go over a bump, you're gonna end up banging your head. There isn't much headroom at all. Kids will be okay though, I should point that out, but adults not so much. Another problem is the fact that these seats aren't that high off the ground, whereas in the other cars, when the rearmost seats are actually higher than the others, so you do get a good view out. In this one, you just sit low down and it's all a bit enclosed. This is the one I would like to go the least distance in the back of. How about when it comes to fitting a child seat though? Well, all cars come with 4 ISOFIX anchor points, so 2 in the middle row, 2 in the very back row, and they're all very big, so they're quite easy to fit and install seats without having to move seats forwards or backwards. This car is actually the best though. These Falcon doors, yet again, paying dividends, making it very easy to get the seat in and into place. See, they don't only look good, they are very, very practical as well. Another cool feature about the Tesla Model X is the fact that because you haven't got an engine underneath the bonnet, it's some storage space, which I seem to have just cracked. Oh dear. Hopefully no one from Tesla will be watching this video. Anyway, if you'd like to see my full in-depth video review of a Tesla Model X I haven't just broken, click on the pop-out banner up there to go watch the vid. Obviously in 7-seater mode, the boot space isn't all that big, but you can fit this much in. However, if you fold down the rearmost seats, then you can carry this much in the Tesla Model X. That's not too bad. One of the key features about the X7 is that, look, it gets a split folding tailgate. I really like that. And in 7-seater mode, you can fit this much in, fold down the rearmost seats, then the amount you can fit in is this much. Now the GLS might not have a split folding tailgate or a front boot, but what it does have is the biggest low capacity in 7-seater mode. In fact, you can fit all this stuff into it. With the rear seats folded down, you can fit in pretty much the same as the other cars. However, there is room to just squeeze in a set of golf clubs too. Woohoo! Finally, let's see how these big SUVs compare to drive. Starting with the Mercedes GLS. Now, if you like your SUVs to be big, chunky, feel reassuringly heavy and built like a tank, this is your car. Though that doesn't mean it's difficult to drive, it just feels solid and you get a real good view down on other road users. Needless to say, being a Mercedes, it's very comfy and it's quiet. Now the engine in this car is pretty impressive. It's the one most people go for, it's the diesel. In fact, it's the only one you can get in the UK. So you put your foot down and it pulls hard and it's smooth for a diesel, very smooth and reasonably quiet as well. and it works really nicely with a 9-speed automatic gearbox. Let's check out the economy though. That's what diesels are good for, right? This is only averaging just over 24 miles per gallon, which isn't great. But it could be worse, I suppose, if you had one of the V8s. Definitely would be worse. It sort of does that thing that old school off-roaders do, where it rocks you from side to side over undulations, a bit like a ship on a gentle sea. Now, don't let that confuse into thinking that this car handles really badly. It doesn't. You take it down a twisty road, it's more than up to the job. It's obviously no sports car, but it won't topple over in the bends, unless you're going really crazy. But you're not going to go really crazy, because you're going to have 6 passengers on board, many of which will be kids, and they'll just be sick all over the interior. Jumping in the BMW after the Mercedes, it feels like a slightly smaller car, from the driver's seat at least. When you look in the mirror and see how much car is actually behind you, you realise it's pretty much the same size. It's odd how it does that though. I think it's the way it all wraps around you. Now in terms of comfort, there's really very little in between the two cars. Maybe this is slightly smoother over bumps, and maybe this is a bit quieter. I'm absolutely splitting hairs. One thing you do notice is the difference between the petrol engine and the diesel, and this has got a load of pulling power, and it's smooth and it's lovely and it sounds good. It's not particularly good for the planet though, because it's doing less than 18 miles per gallon. Oh, I can't fault the gearbox though. It's super smooth and responsive. It's lovely to drive. Now when you put it into sports mode, it does stiffen things up a bit, and once again it's maybe a little bit sharper than the Mercedes through the twisty bits. It doesn't seem to do that side to side shaky thing like the Mercedes. You're not going to be pushing these cars particularly hard anyway, so do you care? If you do, then this is probably a slightly better bet. If you don't, flip a coin. Finally then, onto the Tesla Model X. It feels the most sporty of the three. You sit lower in it, the suspension is firmer, so you feel bumps a bit more. The steering is a touch sharper, and then you've got that throttle response. Because there's no gearbox to kick down and no turbos to spool up, when you accelerate, it responds immediately. Makes it brilliant for just nipping past other cars on the road. Really quick, and it makes it fun as well. Also, because the batteries are mounted low down in the car, it has a low centre of gravity, so it actually goes through corners better than you may expect a car looking like this could. One thing I do notice about it though is that even though there's no engine rattling away, the sound insulation isn't as good as in the German, so you hear more tyre noise and a bit more wind noise as well when you're going quicker. As for the economy, well, being an electric car, I've got different readings. So it's saying it's doing 532 watt hours per mile. Now, it doesn't matter about the cost of that, because you can charge this thing for free at Tesla superchargers. What does matter though is the range. So Tesla says this car will do 314 miles on a full charge, but based on that amount of energy consumption, I'm only going to get about 188 miles. I haven't done very well in terms of economy in all 3 cars I've been driving, to tell you the truth. One thing that I really do like about this Tesla though is the automatic cruise control system. They all have them and they're all very good, but the Tesla is just that little bit better. It can really spot when you're in weird conditions, such as going past roadworks or the lines are a bit faded. It just seems a little bit better than those in the other 2 cars. It's not completely infallible though. You can't just switch off, let it do its own thing. You do still need to monitor it. It does definitely help take the strain out of driving long distances. An upgrade worth having. Picking a winner from these 3 cars is actually very difficult, because they're all very good. Now, if you don't have access to charging points, you're going to need one of these 2. And between the Mercedes and the BMW, I think the BMW just edges it. It feels a bit more luxurious and it's slightly nicer to drive. But if you do have access to charging points, I would ditch these 2 and go with a Tesla Model X, simply because it feels more like you're driving into the future. Hey BMW.
Hello. What can I help you with?
I'm bored.
I can't imagine that you're bored. Maybe you haven't yet had the chance to try sport mode.
Very good. Cancel. Hey Mercedes.
How may I help you?
What's the meaning of life?
Well, try and be nice to people, avoid eating fatty foods, and read a good book every now and then. Get some walking in, and try and live together in peace and harmony with people of all races and nationalities.
Kind of reminds me of our mum, you know, just going on a little bit.